Alright, so today we have another perimeter in progress here. Did a lot of this work on stream with the main side trenches as well as the tunnel boring on the bottom of the 12 wide, which is why this side is so smooth compared to that side. And yes, we actually used the 12 wides on this side because there was a bit of oceans and whatnot and mountains that would make it a bit more annoying. So we used the 12 wides on this side and the top over here. And because the other two sides for the small trenches were pretty much just regular terrain with a couple mountains here and there, it was pretty easy to just do those regularly besides this small little section here with the bit of ocean in it, which is why we also used the 12 wides on this side over here as well. But instead of actually mining it all by hand with the bottom bit down here for the 12 wides, we did use a tunnel bore, which is why this bit is all blown out. See, that was a tunnel bore here. I don't know why somebody filled in part of the floor here, but, you know, doesn't really matter. But you can see over here, the tunnel bore breaks everything into the bottom as well as clearing out all the stuff around it. So a bit more lava clearing, do it this way, but it's not that big of a deal. Obviously makes it a lot easier. We got over a lot faster, even having to deal with more lava. But those tunnel bores by, I think it's Anware, they're like 2x speed tunnel bore, which is pretty nice with how quick it was able to go across that 530 block long area. But yeah, just finished mining all the obsidian in this area. There was actually quite a bit, despite it not being a full ocean. The ocean bits on the sides were a bit annoying, but overall, it still didn't take that long, a couple hours or so. So yeah, now it's ready to get the rest of the World Eater down. We were at Y level 11, so we don't got too much more to do. This water should be fine. Just leave here, but I'll clear this out. That way you don't got to worry about any more obsidian forming, because I am quite a bit obsidianed out at this point. So yeah, on to World Eater again. Just been a backup. That way we can revert if anything goes catastrophically wrong, but it shouldn't. Should just be running the last few layers, maybe a couple hidden obsidians underneath the ground, but for the most part, we should just be waiting here until this is fully done. So yeah, top block, but Y10. So yeah, I gotta fly to the other side, which is where the Road Eater actually sits for the dupers and whatnot. But yeah, so we'll be back once the area is fully cleared out and we have some decoration going up. We might print the floor for this one. Maybe the walls. We'll see how it goes, but we're still going to design a lot of stuff before we can even get to making it. But yeah, I'll get this thing back underway. Be back just in a little bit. Alright, so the full floor decoration is in both layers. I got the bottom one and the top. We did shadow this one just because it's a lot easier to do and I have to make the whole placer and whatnot. And you get that a lot faster than it would be to build the whole printer up and whatnot, because we still have shadow items in 117. This is actually very easy to do with shadow items and saves us actually more time than the printer would. Of course, if you didn't have shadow items and newer versions and whatnot, this would totally be faster by making the printer itself. But yeah, so that's how to do with the walls. Of course, you know, they are going to be pretty high walls. We are in a somewhat of a mountain biome. Probably gonna go to like 140 or something along those lines in total. I think this side over here is the higher mountains, but of course I like to cover up everything. That way you don't see any of the terrain behind it. So yeah, maybe 140 might be okay right here. Maybe 160. I don't know for sure. So decide what we want to do. Whether we want to do a printable wall placer that we can actually do with the wall placer. It doesn't make the most sense, but we'll see if we want to do like a single layer or we want to do a multi-layer for that. For me, I think the multi-layer might look good with the multi-layered floor here with the deep slate and the green. But yeah, looks pretty cool so far. Little materials here to make the actual farm, so I'm going to go ahead and start with that. It is a pretty big farm. It's just a lot of real estate pretty much, so it's not the most complicated thing to make. There we go here. It's only 187,000 blocks, and a lot of that is actually grass blocks. I think it's like 40 or 50,000 of that is grass blocks, so it'll be really fast once we get those patterns down. Of course, this is by a Fallen Breath, like all these other passive mob farms we've been doing. Definitely link in the description down below to the original design there, where they have some amazing decoration. We are not going to beat the level of it, that is for sure. So yeah, we'll get work to the farm. Maybe a little bit of a time lapse here. It's gonna be kind of difficult because of how much stuff it'll be. So definitely get that thing done in one sit in. But we'll see how it goes and everything like that. We gotta work on the wall decoration. Also gotta figure out a storage solution as that one is not included. And it'll have to be at one of the edges of the farms because there's no space whatsoever. We'll have to break a little bit of the floor here. If I were to load the schematic, you can see I positioned the farm so that there's one block here for us to mine out, which is just the top layer there of the decoration. Then in the middle, I think we have about 2 or 3. So yeah, perfectly got this here. We're going to be moving this to either the south side or the north side. I forget which one the spawn detection sinking is. Whatever one is opposite of that, we'll put the storage over there. So we don't have to worry about breaking this bedrock. And then obviously we don't need to have a full ice path all the way down. It can be wherever the bedrock is, we'll have situations where we can work around it in a sense, so we don't have to stop it on that exact block there. So we don't have to worry about breaking any bedrock whatsoever to transport the items all the way down to the storage. I think it's going to be somewhere on this side or the other side. This is where we have the spawn sinking with the spawning here, so it'll keep these platforms flooded until you get a mob spawn in here, which then syncs it to the clock. That way you can get everything underway. So yeah, of course we'll have to put this thing on, go stand in the center, but the good thing is we don't need to be here exactly as it syncs. It'll sync itself once it detects a mob spawning, which is very nice. And then we can get everything all hooked up very, very easily. But these conveyors will be definitely interesting to make. That is quite a lot of stuff. It's going to be similar to the parrot farm conveyors for a majority of it. Just a lot of these are diagonal ones rather than the straight across ones. So we'll see how it goes. This will be a lot of block placing, but it'll be worth it in the end. So yeah, we'll be back once we have some more updates. Alright, so a bit of progress later. It doesn't look like a lot. I'm only on technically the 3rd level of the farm itself. Well, technically the 4th, because it does extend 2 blocks down with the ice path, but the bottom level is really only like 6 or 7 blocks of packed ice. Yeah, so we got this bit going on here. Building this is sort of reminding me of making Fallen's old 72k per hour ice farm. This was before the flying machines are, and that thing had a heck of a lot of blocks in this sort of pattern with the wiring underneath the ice pads. This is sort of bringing back the memories of building that thing up, but it is taking substantially longer and whatnot, as I'm not even at the grass pads yet. But once we get to the grass pads, the rest of the layers are just glass and whatnot, so that should be pretty straightforward. Getting all of the water buckets into the dispensers will be sort of annoying, but I think I do have a plan for that. I'm gonna want to actually just place ice on top of all of the dispensers, get the water there, that way I can go around with just buckets and put them all in the dispensers. I think that'll be the easier alternative to that one there. But yes, we got a good amount done so far. It doesn't look like it just because it's only a couple layers, but this is a majority of the redstone, and then once that's all good to go, got a little bit of slime wire on the outside. That will be very, very simple to do. And then it's just the grass. So the string will be sort of annoying, but my plan for that is to sort of get all the grass and dispensers in first, and then go back through, and I can just hold down the button to place the string in between the paths there. I believe that's for the mobs to walk off into this area. That is my only guess as of right now, is what that string actually does, since there's no trapdoors and whatnot that would fly with hitboxes and things like that. I think the string accomplishes the same thing there. So yeah, everything's all good here. The central module is also built up with the minecart looted. So I also went ahead and got everything under here for the output. I redirected it the opposite side of where everything is for the spawn detection, and that will go all the way across. No bedrock break-in needed. Sometimes I either cut the water stream short, or it was perfect where there was actually no bedrock in the way, that we could fit the packed ice there. We could also get away with not having to do that by placing the slab every 7th water instead of every 8th. That way we cut the water stream one short, and then there's still enough momentum to carry through, just for the sake of not having to worry about any items getting stuck with momentum and whatnot. I opted to I'll just include the packed ice. It's not that many sources. So yeah, somewhere over here we will have the storage outside of the slime wire right here. I couldn't do it one block shorter because we have a bedrock there and I didn't want to break it. So what we did instead is we just extended it one extra block. It will have the storage probably somewhere in this vicinity here. So yeah, I'm gonna go do a stream right now. Of course, if you aren't already following the Twitch, make sure you do that. Link in the description and down below. I want to get a little bit of work on this today, as it has been a relatively slow weekend in terms of progress. But I want to get some work done here, and streaming is the best way to do it, as I stay focused and whatnot while doing that. So yeah, I have the rhythm down where I'm doing these 6 blocks at a time all the way across, just 3 clicks each time. Fortunately, I can't do too much of, improvements with quality of life with having to just put on fast block placement, as I can place a block here, and I don't really want that. So yeah, I'm gonna get work back to this, and that way we can continue making this farm up. As you know, the majority of the work here is going to be these redstone layers at the bottom here, as they are very repetitive, and it is such a large farm that we have to do it quite a bit. So I'll be back once we have some more progress. Alright, so the full farm is built up. You can see a bit more of the wall decoration being worked on over there. But yeah, finally, after a couple weeks, the farm is fully done. This thing definitely took an extremely a lot longer than I thought it would be. But it is all done, dusted. I think I accidentally activated it when I was building up the spawned clock detection sink over there. So I think it all worked, but I guess we're going to be showing a little bit when we actually do run the farm in the final clip once everything is completed over here with the decoration and whatnot. But yeah, over here we have the actual, chambers and whatnot. Because it was only on this side over here with the original schematic, what I did is I just mirrored it, and then I had to change the, UI a little bit. So obviously you would only use one side at a time. Obviously, because if the mobs only spawn on that side over there, then if they spawn over here, or they don't spawn over here, rather, this grass would stay out. And then once that does get synced, what it would do is they would have 2 alternated ones, so that wouldn't be ideal. So obviously you would only turn on 1 if you wanted to at a time. And the way I'm accomplishing this is just by positioning the sticky piston down here, 1 block down, and then there's a note block under here that's going to update that for QC purposes. So I can't put a note block or anything on top of here because this sticky piston extends over there. So yeah, that's how we accomplish that, using the same single center block here. And then you got to do the stuff over here with, this says the clock synced, which it's on at its default state. And then once it detects it, it'll instantly start the clock, which will then sync it to everything with the passive mob spawning cycle. That way you can get the flushing to be perfectly timed. So we had to go through the painstaking process of placing a single bucket in each one of these dispensers, because that's how it toggles the water on and off. So it was roughly about 4 shulker boxes of buckets that we would then the whole farm. So huge thanks to Never. We got it done in roughly an hour doing that together, which definitely would have taken me about 2 hours or so just of doing that otherwise. So yeah, huge thanks to them. That way we got the farm fully finished. We got the ice and whatnot on top of the stuff. So yeah, I made it a bit easier when we used regular buckets for the actual dispenser itself. That way we could carry over a shulker box at a time. Usually gets done like one section, one corner. And be on the top, we went through with the ice to actually break or to actually get the water there, rather than having to do individual water buckets for each one. That would have just taken too long. Then we would have had to activate them as well. So this was definitely the better alternative if you were, for some reason, wanted to build this yourself. But yeah, that thing's all done here, all connected up via the slime wire on the outside. That's what that thing is over there. Since it's all retraction based, it'll be instantaneous across the full farm itself. That way you get all of them synced up together, and it is very satisfying to watch if you have not seen Fallen's video already. So over here we got the storage. What I'm doing is also, once again, using Leo's hybrid loader here. So what it'll do is it'll put items into a double chest first, and then it'll start filling up the shulker box here. And then the shulker boxes will make their way down at the bottom. That's mainly because we're not going to get a lot of drops, especially for the ones that need to get the item frames for. So yeah, up here we got the actual ones. So we got the, obviously the steak, the mutton, the pork chops, chicken, rabbits, and leather, stuff like that, all the way down. Rabbit's feet will be a good one. Apparently the foxes can also spawn with eggs in their mouths. They will drop that, as well as wheat, emeralds, and we're also going to not keep regular wool. We're going to keep the pink wool. Then we can actually keep track of how many pink sheep have spawned in the farm here, which could be pretty cool. So yeah, now all that's left is to make the wall decoration here. You can see we have this little pattern here with the green and gray to complement the floor with the green and gray but there. So yeah, that's all we need to do. With these loaders here, Leo usually has it up a lot higher. What I wanted to do was I wanted to make it on the side here, so I just shrunk it by 3 hoppers in total. That way it was a bit easier to work with the height wise, and I just have this here. So yeah, there's about 16 shulker boxes in each one of these dispensers back here, which I doubt we're going to get anywhere near. And then on the last 5 or so, we're not even going to get close to filling a full shulker box, but it just makes sense and more uniform to have them all be the same here. So yeah, once we come back, the full area will be done and we'll see the farm in action. Alright, so the full area is completed. I have lowered the render distance down. That way we can start to get passive mob spawning in the clock synchronization part over here. As you can see, I'm going to fly around real quick. All of the walls are completed and everything is all done and dusted here. So it's just time to run the farm. So I did just start the initial sequence here. I did click the clock switch lever and then click that button over there. So now this side over here is going to be the one that's responsible for clicking, syncing the clock to the passive mob spawn and cycle. However, this one over here, I just did it for mirror purposes. You can use either one. Just don't use both of them at the same time. Otherwise, that's not going to be good. Somehow there is passive mobs here. It must be in the conveyors here. They're stuck. So that's fine. We still have space in the Bobcat to get this to work. So all we have to do now is just wait here for this spawn-in pad over here to get some mobs. That will sync it, and then the farm will begin once we go back and flick that lever over there. So I'm going to just wait here for this clock to get synced, and then we'll be able to run the farm and be back once that is done. It can take a little bit, as this is not that many spawn-in spaces, so it can fail sometimes. So it may take a couple of cycles, but it's not too big of a deal. Just a longer startup time. The farm will work perfectly once this is done. Alright, I think it did happen there. I wasn't fully paying attention, but I do see some drops on there, so it means the magma blocks were pushed over. So all we're going to do now is raise our render back up, just so we get to the middle, and don't unload anything. Just turn the farm on. That will sync everything all up and running. I have my inventory filled with glass and whatnot. So now all we go down, we'll get in here, we'll go to 12. So it looks like it should be draining. It is. That's our first mob spawn successful up top there. Water then flows out. After a bit of time, it does the first one to preemptively put the ones to go into it. And then we get the one coming all the way down here. And if we're going to run the farm for a long time, we would have it on a 400 game tick interval. That when they appear, you would do that. So I'm going to do that actually in this one here. So we will miss this one here because we have to wait for the 400 game ticks to kick in. But what I was saying is that it sends 2 waves of pulses. So the first one is to sort of get the ones that are stuck on the edge of the water to sort of walk off if they are floating right there. Colin does have a cool explanation video if you ever wanted to see that. That explains the whole farm here and showcases it. They did also make it on the TIS server. But yeah, we build it in a biome where we get a lot of different mob types. So the drops are a bit less, but we get a wide variety of mobs instead. We get a lot of the wolves, foxes, and all those other ones you wouldn't normally get in the spruce taiga biome. A couple of rabbits too, so they will, unfortunately get attacked by them, so we might lose a little bit of drops. But again, we still get everything there. It does use minecart looting, as you saw there, so that just recycles it. That's why you need to fill your inventory with stuff, otherwise you would have an issue with picking up the minecart and or the drops. But this farm is just super satisfying to watch run. I'm going to turn off beacon rendering, that way you can see it a bit better. So we just go sit up here, seeing all the mobs getting flushed into the middle here will never get old. Unfortunately, the water on the edge sometimes does an update on the player's end, but if I were to do a replay, it would look really, really cool and satisfying to watch run. But yeah, I've said this multiple times before. Single dimension farms are just so much cooler to watch. Thing like that. It never gets old watching one of these compared to a portal spam. So whenever I can, I will be making a single dimension farm, unless we really have to for we need something like very fast speed wise. For example, our gold farm. That kind of has to be dual dimension to get any reasonable rates for us to use for bartering. So that is why we are doing that. But passive mobs, there's really no benefit to go into a dual dimension besides the fact that the farm is just a little bit easier to make. But this will never get old to me, so we'll keep this one forever and ever. So yeah, I'm gonna stay here for a little bit and get these numbers up, get a little bit more drops into the storage on the top there, and just overall have a very satisfying farm running in the background. So yeah, that's gonna go for this episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, all those things, and I'll see you in the next one.